Welcome to the Overlady Reads, the show where I, the Overlord, have a wife, the Overlady, and she reads. This week, you've already read Part 2 of Oathbringer. You're reading Oathbringer still.
Yeah.
But yes, so this is Part 2 of what will most likely be a 5-part, maybe a 4-part, depending on 4 and 5 series. So if you haven't watched Part 1, that's down below. We also have done the rest of the series, because you've read all of the books so far, I think, except for Arcanum Unbounded.
Yeah,
Still
Arcanum Unbounded, I'm reading after Oathbringer.
Yes. So I don't think we've actually said the point of this series for a little while. She's reading them for the first time, and I've read all these books like dozens of times before. So yeah. Let's go. Part 2 of Oathbringer.
Cool. So I'm going to start with my least favourite character.
Ah, yes.
Just so that I can get them over and done with.
Yeah.
It's Moash.
Obviously, yeah.
His chapters were a struggle to read through. I felt like his whole chapters in this part could have easily been just an
Interlude.
Interlude.
Yeah, a couple of interludes or something.
No, just one interlude.
Okay.
Being like, yep, Graves died, I took out a Voidbringer, and now I'm working with them.
Yeah.
Could have left it at that, and that would have explained Moash fine for me.
I think the Moash chapters in Part 2 are the closest I've been to skipping a chapter in a book.
I wouldn't blame you.
Like, I think the first 2 were okay, and then I got the third one. You see the little symbol with the Bridge 4 thing torn off, and I just saw that and I was like, do I just skip it? I'm like, can anything really that important? And
no.
I mean, you get to see a bit of what it's like to submit to Odium. That's kind of what it's supposed to be showing.
But I see that through Venli's chapters.
Yes, and Venli's chapters are far more interesting.
Yeah. I could have just done with an interlude and been done with Moash.
Yeah.
But anyway. So Moash is with Graves. They're attacked by the Fused. Because he knows how lashing works because of his time with Kaladin.
Yeah.
He manages to stop it from lashing into the sky.
Yeah.
Kills it. The other 2 lash that were there in the attack were impressed. And they're like, hey, you can either die or you can come with us.
Yeah.
Chooses to go with them. He becomes their prisoner. He finds his old master, Gruff, in the Parshendi camp.
This is not in Kolinar, this is near Kolinar, right?
Yeah. So Gruff takes him to the Light Eyes officer that's in charge of the humans. And Moash is like, what on earth are we doing? We're still obeying Light Eyes.
Yeah.
What's even the point of this?
Because all the Dark Eyes are like struggling to make like rations for food, and the Light Eyes are just sat in a tent being like, ah, la, da, da.
Yeah. So he then decides that he is going to join the work order that wants like hard labour, people pulling the Chol carriages.
Yeah.
Because in order to get food as a prisoner, he has to work. He could, if he had a skill, he could go and do that. He could just do like servanty roles that the Parshmen used to do, or he could do hard labour.
Yeah, and he chooses
hard labour because he's like, well, what's even the point in living after this?
Yeah.
So the next part with him, they're travelling to Kolinar as like the group of Parshmen.
Yeah.
He's pulling one of the wagons, looks to the side, see there's a wagon pulled by a group of Parshmen, and he notices that they're being whipped.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Doesn't
he grab like the soldier in the whipping and he's like, no, you guys have to be better than we were. That's something we awful humans would do, and you need to be better.
Well, first he turns to the Parshman that's in charge of his group, and he's like, why are they being whipped? Now he's like, they were harbouring a false god.
Yes.
Kaladin.
Because they were Kaladin's group, yeah.
Yeah. So then he goes over, because one of them's like collapsed, and like they're really like beating him. He's like, hey, stop that. He then beats up the guys with the whips. He takes that Parshman's place on the carriage.
Yeah.
And they all just sort of allow it. So then the next one, they stop at a town. They're making ladders and they're preparing for the siege.
Yeah.
Where am I?
Do you need your highlighter again?
Can't do it close. They can't prepare for the siege close to Kholinar because of the high storms.
Yeah, because it's surrounded by a big flat expanse, basically.
So they've taken over this little town and they're prepping everything there. The Parshmen that he's now with, Kaladin's old group, are complaining about the treatment.
Yeah.
And how it's no different to when the humans were in charge. So Moash goes to speak to someone in charge, demands to speak to one of the Voidbringers. So he's taken to one of the fused.
Yes.
And she's like, you're the guy that killed me before.
Yes.
This is my new body. And that's when he finds out they're immortal.
Yeah, and they just get reborn.
Yeah.
This is Leshwi, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Leshwi. I really like Leshwi.
Cool. Sorry, anything in this chapter I just do not care for.
Oh, no!
I was so bored when I was reading them.
Yeah.
So she says that he showed a passion for helping the lesser Parshmen, and he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
He admits that he didn't deserve his shards, and that humans don't deserve to rule. And then he offers to train the Parshmen on how to use spears.
Okay.
It's essentially Moash.
Yeah.
I know that most of that is like 90% factually incorrect, but I just don't care enough.
You just didn't enjoy them that much.
Yeah.
I think they are... Part 2 in general is just kind of a calmer, more...
Yeah.
day in the life of kind of story.
It took me a long time to read Part 2.
Yeah, probably the longest time.
Because nothing really happens in Part 2. It's quite... just sort of
it's nothing plot wise happens. You learn a lot about the characters. You get to know like a lot more of Bridge 4, and it's a day in the life of Part. I quite like it after I like
the action filled parts or parts where like something big happens.
Yeah.
And for me, like I got a lot of theorizing done in this part.
Ooh.
I got a lot more done in Part 3.
Oh yeah, you would.
But it's just quite a calm before the storm.
Yeah. Before we go on to anyone else's characters, do you want to talk about the epigraphs?
Do I? Oh, it's the letter ones.
Yes. Any theories to the letter? To the epigraphs?
My only theory is it's the dragon shard.
Okay.
Talking to Hoid. When I say dragon shard, I mean the one that we think is a dragon.
The one that Ian thinks is a dragon.
Oh no, I'm very much with him on that. Like, that's a great theory, and I'm so up for it.
I was going to say, because there's another shard who might be a dragon where it's far more likely we actually have evidence for. And so you're talking about endowment.
Let's just assume that all shards are dragons.
You're talking about endowment, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
So did you notice that there's more than one letter in those epigraphs?
No.
Yeah, there's 3 letters in those epigraphs.
Cool.
Yeah, it's because every like at that like the beginning they talked to the address Hoid, and then like half a third of the way through a new one starts by addressing Hoid, and then the 2/3 of the way through a new one starts by like saying "Dear Wanderer."
Okay, so I'm assuming that they're all letters to Hoid about how they're not going to come and help him fight Odium.
Yes, pretty much. Well,
awesome.
One of them,
we're on our own, guys.
One of them's pretty accepting. So the first one's endowment and is all like, "No, I evaded the rules and went to my own planet. I ain't doing anything because this is all your guys' fault. You guys suck."
Yeah.
The second one is someone talking about how the letter has not reached the right part of them, and so they will reply, and they're starting to grow other parts of them on other planets that do not like Hoid, and so he should not contact them either.
Okay.
Yes, it seems we have a shard. It kind of been hinted about, but there's a shard who seems to be going around leaving bits of them behind.
Cool.
There's that one's still a bit even. Anyway.
Fortune!
Do you want me to tell you the name of that shard who seems to be going around?
No.
Cool.
It's Fortune.
So I'm sure people will jump on me in the comments to correct me that they might not be leaving parts of them behind, but we just that seems to be that there's multiple parts of them and they're in other places. The third one says, "Hey, why do you hide from me? I'm pretty new to this, and I don't really understand what's going on."
Harmony!
Yeah.
Let's ignore Harmony.
Oh, no! I forgot that you don't like Sazed. So, yes.
Should have been Vin.
Yeah, so the first one's endowment, the second one is the shard who is unnamed in the books so far.
Yeah.
And the third one, it stays it.
Cool, let's
Moving on!
Moving on! We're gonna go to Dalinar, because it's Dalinar's book.
Yeah.
And I always feel like you should start with the character whose book it is, apart from when it doesn't make sense to. So Dalinar forces Queen Fen into one of his visions.
Yes.
And it's the one with Heb and the radiance coming out the sky to fight the...
Midnight Essences.
Yeah. That one.
That one.
So he's a radiant this time.
Yeah.
And he's wondering why the plates used to grow, but they glow, but they don't anymore. So I thought that the reason they used to glow is because they used to get the plates through their oaths.
Okay.
So they used to say an oath at some point.
Yeah.
And it was gifted to them by their Spren.
Okay.
But obviously now they're using old plates.
Yeah.
And because they're not specifically for that person, that's why they don't glow anymore.
Yeah, they're kind of...
That's my theory.
Underpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he flies in.
Yeah.
And he finds Fen, who has organised all of the villagers.
Yeah.
into like this little like fighting ring with like children safe in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like, cool.
It's like, damn.
We like Fen.
Yeah, Fen works quick.
Yeah, like...
I love when he asks her about Heb's child and wife. And you're like, oh, them. Oh, I left them behind.
No.
I thought she...
No, she saved the child.
Oh, okay.
She just left the wife as bait.
Oh, yeah, that was it, yeah.
Didn't need her. So she still doesn't believe him. She still thinks that he wouldn't have been chosen as the Radiant leader because he's the Blackthorn.
Yeah.
He's a monster. Boy, now I know why he was a monster.
Yeah.
So she argues with him and he just loses it and he gets quite angry with her.
Yes.
And at that point she's like, finally, when I was talking to you by spam read, it felt like I was talking to just... A puppet.
Yeah.
At least now I can see that you're passionate about this and...
You're legit. Yeah.
So she asks him if she can explore a couple more visions. And then she'll decide where she stands on this issue.
Yeah.
So then we get to the next vision.
Yeah.
Which is when they're fighting and like they've got like poor quality like equipment.
Yeah.
They've got like wooden weapons, like really basic. So he's fighting and in the fight he gets his arm chopped off.
Yes.
And being the Blackthorn, he just sort of like ties up the loose end.
Yeah.
Just carries on fighting.
This is a vision. This is one of the new visions, isn't it? We don't see this one in Words of Radiance or Way of Kings.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the Stonewood vision where we see a Stonewood.
Yes. I don't know what any of them are called. I don't pay that much attention.
I can't remember if this one has a proper name. But I think we just call it Stonewood vision because we see a Stonewood.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So he then like is fighting. The Stormfather's like, mate, just use Stormlight to fix your arm.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, it's cheating.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. So then the Voidbringers arrive.
Yeah.
And Dalinar and the others retreat down this like stone, like a path in the stone that the stonecutter has just made for them.
Stonewood.
I don't know. The Stone Radiant.
Yes. I'll accept Stone Radiant.
Yeah. So they retreat down there, and there's humans fighting the Voidbringers. At that point is when he brings in Jasnah and Navani.
Yes.
And Navani sees one of the Radiants using a Fabrial to heal people.
Yeah.
So she runs off to go and, like, find out what that is.
Yeah.
Him and Jasnah are talking about, like, philosophical stuff.
Yeah.
As they like to do
as
together.
As they all want to do.
Jasnah's quite shocked at how, like, primitive everything is.
Yeah, it's all, like, bronze weapons. It's, like, barely have leather armor.
So she was saying how she thinks this is quite early.
Yeah.
Like one of the earlier flashbacks.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think that between Desolations, like humanity gets pretty much wiped out, like only a small amount remains.
Yeah.
And I think that as a result, they lose a lot of like what they can do.
Yes.
So this one, I think, happened quite close to like the last Desolation.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so limited with what they have.
I'm almost sure that this is this not the vision where they see Yezrian preaching that they've won?
Yes.
So yeah, this is the last one. This is the final one where the Radiance.
I assume he did that every time.
Oh no! This is the last one where the heralds have given up their blades. Tal died, and the heralds were like, "We'll just lie to them, tell them they won."
Yeah.
And so yeah, this is the last one because, as you said, every desolation, humanity basically got reverted back to stone tools and things because civilization got wiped out. And yeah, between the last two, there was only like a couple of months, and so it's literally they got wiped out, and then they're gonna have to fight again with barely learning bronze.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the last one. Yeah.
Okay. That's always good to know.
Yeah.
So, as they're climbing up this hill, they see the body of a stone creature.
Yes.
I thought that was like maybe one of the Parshendi forms.
Okay.
And I think it's the same thing that we saw in one of his visions in the first book.
Yes.
Where...
The Pure Lake vision.
Well, you say Pure Lake.
I say Pure Lake. You say
don't.
I don't know what we would call it, the Plain Sea, the Shattered Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the same creature that like bonded to the stone and like made a giant stone creature.
Yes.
So I thought maybe it was like a type of Parshendi form.
It's a... So do you know what those are called? You do at this point. I believe you know they're called Thunderclast?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So now you know they're called Thunderclast.
Cool.
So yes, the Thunderclasts are an anomaly, I would say, in the Odium's forces. They could be a form. That'd be interesting. They could be a Spren. That'd be interesting. They could be a fused. That'd be interesting. They don't quite fit.
Cool.
And so we'll I'm sure we'll learn more about them in the future, but right now,
Big stone buddies.
Big stone buddies. Yeah.
So at the top of this hill are 9 honor blades, like stuck in the ground in a big circle.
Yeah.
So that's when they're like, oh, this was the last herald fight.
Yeah.
So then Dalinar is talking to the Stormfather.
Yeah.
And the Storm, like, he demands to know
answers.
Like, why did the heralds stop?
Yeah.
So he's like, why did the heralds all die?
Yeah.
And the Stormfather was like, they didn't. They just quit.
Yeah.
And he's like, why did they quit?
Yeah.
And so he explains to them that the Voidbringers are given power by Odium, and they're constantly rebirthed. Like, they don't die.
Yep.
When they die, they just inherit another body.
Yeah, they go back to Braze, but then they're reborn by Odium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the old Honor Pact was bonded by the Heralds.
Yep.
Where they bonded them all into Damnation?
Yes.
I can never remember the name of that place.
Yeah.
But in order to keep them in Damnation, the Heralds go with them.
Yep.
And they keep them there so they don't come back to humanity.
Yes.
But in order to keep them there, they essentially are just tortured endlessly.
Yeah.
And every now and then one of them cracks because they can't take it anymore.
Yeah. And
they are released back into the human world.
And that gives the fused the ability to come back to Roshar.
Yeah. And then they're fighting them again.
And then, yeah.
And then they have to bond them back. Well, they have to kill them, so they go back into
Braze. Damnation.
Where the Heralds then keep them back again.
Yes.
This time, they're pretty tired. They've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And they just can't do it anymore. Like, they all agree that it's just too much for them now.
Yeah.
Like, there was only a couple of months between the last 2 Desolations because they keep cracking, because they can't keep doing it. And they're like, hey, there's only one of us that's never cracked. He's already dead. He's already back there.
Yeah.
We can go and leave him to it.
Yeah.
So that's why there's 9 blades, because Tarn is already back in Damnation.
Yeah.
And so this all gets explained to Dalinar.
Yeah.
And then Dalinar's like, oh, that crazy guy that we had
actually was Tarn.
And the reason these are back is because he finally cracked.
Yeah.
After 4,500 years.
4,500 years.
No wonder he
was not all there.
Yeah.
Surprised he was there at all.
Yeah.
If you were this is the Stormfather. This is the Stormfather info dump chapter, which gave us so many answers about things. It's still slightly unclear about the exact mechanics of a desolation. Like, when did they start? So they start when a herald breaks, and then the other heralds, then therefore knowing that will let the fused in, they all break together. But then we're like, do the fused then immediately come back? Or do the fused, is there like a time lag?
No.
And then we're like, what ends a desolation? So does the desolation end just when any of the heralds die?
I think so.
Yeah.
It seems that at least one of them has to be there to stop the desolations from leaving.
Yeah.
Which is why they stopped after this one, because Tom was there to hold them back.
Yeah. And then, so then after that, then the heralds, then when one of them dies, do they all just immediately kill themselves? Or like, do they wait and have a big battle? Because it seems like so the last desolation is called... So the last destination with a capital L is what's currently happening on Roshar.
Yeah.
So when we say the last destination, small L, it's called Aharietium. And so Aharietium happens when they decided not to kill themselves. So yeah, it's a little fuzzy at how desolations begin and end, but we have models. Well,
I assume that once they've taken out all the Parshendi, they just get automatically put back there.
All the fused or the Parshendi?
All of the fused ones.
Yeah.
Like the ones that they're keeping back.
Yeah. So I think that means that for that to be the case, there has to be like a time lag between the fused dying and coming back. So we're kind of like, what does that time lag look like? Ooh. Yeah, because if they're immediately reborn when you kill them, then you'll never get them all back in Donation because they're just immediately reborn. So you kind of like you have to kill them all in like a day.
Well, I think one of them maybe has to already be there to stop the others from leaving.
Okay. So kind of like one of them dies naturally, then the others stay around long enough to kill a good amount of them, and then they all go back willingly kind of thing.
I don't think they go back willingly.
Okay.
I think it's very much a case of after the last one is taken out, they get transported back.
Okay.
I don't think they have a choice.
Well, I was going to say that from what happened in the prelude of them giving up, I'd say they very clearly do have a choice because that's the one where they chose not to go back.
Well, they broke the pact.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion the Oath Pact seems to be working just fine.
Well, I think that maybe they left one.
Well, yeah, they did leave one. They left
No. As in, like, they left
they left
one
the fused.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because if there's only one,
it's
not too much damage if all of the other Parshendi are in dull form.
Yeah.
Like, it can't really do anything.
Okay.
And so at that point, they can just...
Oh, they can just hang around. They leave that one fuse to do what he wants.
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine if you all had one fuse to be like, why aren't they killing me?
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like they managed to work out some sort of system.
Yeah.
Where it allowed them to stay this time.
Yeah.
Like, they found a way to bypass the pact.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I can kind of think of.
Okay.
So then Dalinar realizes that when they took in Tonal, he didn't have a honor blade, he had a shard blade.
Yes.
So my theory is that it was swapped.
Yeah.
There's only one person we know that was with Tonal, and that was our main man, Hoid.
Yes.
I think that Hoid took it,
swapped
it for just a regular shard blade.
Yeah.
But I think that he's given it to someone.
Okay.
I have a theory on that in part 3.
Yes, because you've just finished part 3, like this morning. You finished part 3.
Yeah.
Cool. I was going to say, because I know we do have words of Brandon that Hoid doesn't have it, but there's enough wiggle room in those words of Brandon.
But that's what I mean. He doesn't have it.
He doesn't have it now, but there's enough wiggle room that he could have had it before and given it to someone.
Yeah, because it makes sense.
Yes.
And Hoid always turns up at the right time. And he always...
The right thing to happen, yeah.
Yeah. And he knows that if he had it, if he gave it to somebody, well, he would know that he was supposed to give it to someone and they would do what they needed to do with it.
Yeah.
So that's my theory on that one.
Cool.
And then he does that vision again, but with Yanagawan?
Gawx?
Gawx?
Yeah, Gawx.
Yeah, I know it's Gawx, but I'm trying to do his emperor name.
Just call it Gawx. This is there. Alright, there.
Okay, so he's at a distance, saving Gawx from the attackers.
Yeah.
And then Gawx sees some injured soldiers and follows them, trying to get answers as to what's going on. He hasn't noticed Dalinar at this point.
Yeah.
And then he sees
Jezrien.
Jezrien.
Or Jezrien, yeah. Either's fine.
You told me the other day that Jezrien is fine.
Yeah, I just said either's fine.
Yeah, but you told me that it was Jezrien because back in the day they didn't have the soft J's.
Yes, that is true. So you can say Jezrien, and that's fine, but you can also say Jezrien, because that's also fine.
But don't call him Jezrien, because you're just going to confuse me.
Oh my god, that is not the only name we say differently.
Jezrien.
Jezrien. Yep.
And Jezrien's telling them that they've won.
Yeah.
The Oathbringers are all dead. He lies. So Janna. Don't even know what that was supposed to be. So Dalinar approaches Gawx.
Yeah.
And he's...
Good old Dalinar.
He approaches Gawx and he explains that he's the one that brought him here.
Yep.
And...
Gawx is just horrified, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he's not a soldier. He's like a small child. He has no idea, really.
Yeah.
And he's skeptical about Dalinar. So Dalinar shows him the battlefield to try and get him to join his cause. And Gawx is like, well, I'm not going to join you because last time that we interacted with a Lefkar,
yes,
the
Sunmaker? Yeah, Sunmaker.
The Sunmaker invaded,
yeah.
And you're currently the owner of his sword, Dalinar, so you clearly look up to him. And Dalinar's like, I don't have that sword anymore.
Yeah.
Believe me, unlike the Sunmaker, I've lived long enough to know that fighting isn't always the answer.
Yeah.
And we would work better as allies than we would being against each other. And he's starting to get free to Gawx.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden Lift turns up.
Yes! And Dalinar's like, how did that happen? And the Stormfather's like, how did that happen?
Yeah. And Lift's like, you've got a good butt, which was weird and creepy, and I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
Right. It's purely because she's like a 13-year-old girl, and apparently she's got an obsession with butts, and she checks out people's butts, and I find that weird.
Did you not have an obsession with butts when you were a 13-year-old girl?
Not enough to check everyone out. Gawx is happy because he's not seen her in a while because she'd been off doing her Edge Dancer book.
Yeah.
So he's excited to see her, and she poofs them both out of the vision.
Yeah. And
Dalinar turns Stormfather and he's like, what on earth was that?
Dalinar's like, the Stormfather's like, that storming woman!
Well, no. The Stormfather's like, I have no idea what that was. Yeah. I did not bring her in. She's got a corrupted Spren, and that's how she's able to bypass me. He says that.
Does he?
He says that her Spren is corrupted.
Interesting.
At which point, I'm like, yay.
Corrupted Spren are a thing.
Well, no, because I'm already sure. I was already like, I'd already convinced myself that they were a thing. I was already convinced that Renarin had one.
Yeah.
And now that I know that Lift has one, I'm like, oh. Are they going to create their own, like, shadow radiance? And they're going to get, like, all of the dark radiance. And then we'll have, like, the light radiance. And they can, like, have a radiant fight.
Yes.
That's what I assumed would happen.
This is cool theory. I am 99% sure that the Stormfather doesn't say she's got a corrupted Spren. I'm sure he does comment on her Spren, but I am pretty sure he would not have said that.
I will look it up, and
Yeah.
whichever one of us is right depends on whether that gets kept. And then in the next chapter with Dalinar, Kaladin flies him, Navani, and Elhokar to their old war camp
Yeah.
so that him and his men can practice flying groups of people
Yeah.
because they've got to get ready for the flight to Kholinar.
Yeah.
So they're in the old war camp, and Navani is talking about flying ships, and she's sketching out some designs for flying ships.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so excited for the flying ships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I don't see them in the next book, I'm going to be annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're waiting on Queen Fen to talk to them, because she had been in one of the visions. I can't remember which one.
Queen Fen?
Yeah.
In Starfall, we literally just talked about it 2 minutes ago.
No.
Oh, okay.
Dalinar sent one to her so that she could explore it without him.
On her own, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they were waiting.
Yeah.
They're waiting for her to respond accordingly. And the spam read starts flickering. And she simply writes the word yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool, Queen Fen's on board. She wants us to visit. Dalinar leaves them to do their preparations and get everything organised to go to the monastery.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the moving from the Shattered Plains to
I'm going to like make... Urathiru.
in that,
Yeah, in that move.
they have lost town,
Yeah.
and no one seems to remember where he could be.
Yes.
So Dalinar goes to see if there's any evidence in the monastery about where he could be.
Yeah.
At the monastery, Dalinar finds Kadesh,
Yes.
and he's like, do you believe that that guy was a herald? And Kadesh is like, well, with all the evidence we've now got, I'm inclined to believe that he might have been.
Yeah.
And Dalinar was like, cool, if he tells you what I've been telling you about honor and everything else, would you believe him as, you know, he's one of our gods?
Yeah.
And Kadesh is like, maybe I'd have to wait and see. Dalinar's like, great, I'm never going to get through to you people, am I?
No.
So he goes to the room that they were keeping Tonal in.
Yeah.
And the door's locked. And he's like, have we left him here this whole time?
Yeah.
So he's about to... Well, he can't open the door because he's not got a blade.
Yes.
So he goes round the side and he realises that someone's used a blade to cut a hole in the wall.
So someone with a shard blade has got Tom.
So he's investigating the room and he finds one of the poisoned darts.
Yeah.
And then Kaladin appears and he's like, dude, what do you think about this? And Kaladin's like, well, that's a blackbane poison, that is.
I know that. I know that one.
I've got experience. So at that point, Dalinar then knows that someone must have taken Tonal. So now he's got a new investigation. Never ending.
It's never ending. Look, these books are just big mystery boxes and everyone's trying to work out what's going on and just...
Yeah. Dalinar decides that in the next high storm, Kaladin is going to fly to
Thaylen City. The capital of Thaylen.
Yeah, to open their Oathgate so that they can visit Queen Fen.
Yeah.
Dalinar's like, cool, I need to practice flying anyway. So then the next time we see Dalinar, he's exploring the vision with Navani and Jasnah.
Yeah.
Where all of the Knights Radiance just drop down onto the battlefield and just drop their shards and leave.
Yes, the Feverstone Keep vision of the Recreants.
Yes. And at some point he brings Gawx in.
Yeah.
And him and Gawx are alone having a talk. And Gawx is being quite honest with him and he's like, mate, I genuinely don't know what I'm doing. I'm a small child.
Yeah.
They only put me in this position because they were expecting an assassin to come and get me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So Dalinar has like a nice little heart-to-heart with him.
Yeah.
And Gawx explains that he actually trusts Dalinar.
Yeah.
And he's going to try and see if he can, like, persuade the Ardents. Well, not
Viziers.
Ardents, but Viziers.
Yeah.
To, like,
accept them. Like,
Yeah.
give them a chance.
yeah. And then it gets to the point in the vision where Dalinar, like, the vision normally ends.
Yeah.
And Gawx gets taken out.
And the Valar and Jasnah leave.
Yeah, Stormfather's gone, and Dalinar is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And Dalinar turns round, and there's, like, this figure that's, like, all gold and, like, beautiful.
He's a kindly old man, you
Yeah.
know?
And he's like, "Hi, I'm one of your gods." And Dalinar's like, "Oh, okay. This must be, like, honor or something." And he's like, "I'm Odium."
And it's like, oh no! I remember when I read the book, when I read the first book for the first time, and he said, "Oh no, Dalinar, I'm Odium." I screamed and threw the book across the room. 'Cause,
Understandable.
oh my god, how does... You do not expect Odium to turn up.
So I was expecting, like, the part to end there.
Yeah.
I was expecting, like, him to really, like, long it out, and
Yeah.
we weren't going to get back to Dalinar to, like, part 5.
Yes.
Like, I was expecting, like, this to be a long break. But no,
It's like-
we go straight into
It's
Odium.
like chapter ends, next chapter,
Odium.
it's still exactly where you are.
So Dalinar is quite rightly freaking out about the fact that he is currently face to face with Odium.
Yeah.
And Odium's just being a chill guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Mate, just come and sit with me." And Dalinar's like, no.
I'll stand, thank you very much.
Dalinar calls Odium a monster, and he's like, "Well, we're the same then, aren't we?"
He's like, takes one to know one, doesn't it?
Dalinar is like, "Mate, you killed Honor." And he's like, "Well, it's not the only one I killed."
Yeah.
And actually, I think you'll find that that I'm not that bad, and they
Yes.
needed to die.
Yes.
And it's like, cool. I want to know more.
Yeah. Is this where he starts? Is this where he makes his I'm passion arguments?
Yes.
Yes. So the Odium versus passion thing is an interesting discussion
Yeah.
because I'm also kind of inclined because the as Brendan puts it, the singular word that is used to describe the shard does not encompass the whole thing that a shard. It is simply a representation of the broad idea of what a shard is.
Yeah.
And so the whole Odium passion thing is a super interesting debate about what the shard actually wants.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's and it's a compelling argument either way, I think.
And he's like, "Mate, I'm actually hoping to kill Cultivation as well, but she's hiding from me.
Yeah.
I don't know where she is." I have a theory on where she is
Yes.
that I think we get to soon.
Yeah.
Dalinar offers him the challenge of champions.
Mm-hmm.
Odium just laughs at him.
He's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. He's like, not at the moment, because I don't need to. You're going to release me, Dalinar. And
Yes.
Dalinar's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, trust me. Soon you'll understand what your honor pact is, and then you're going to release me.
Mm-hmm.
Which, oh boy, I really want to know what his honor pact is now.
Yes.
Odium then becomes concerned about something and leaves, like, very quickly.
Yes.
At which point, Lift emerges.
Mm-hmm.
And she agrees that she'll convince Gawx to come to
Uther.
as long as the food is good.
Yeah.
I am convinced that Lift is like Cultivation's champion.
Okay.
I think that Lift is a bit like Vin,
Yeah.
where she's been groomed pretty much from birth
Yeah.
to take down
Odium.
Odium.
Okay.
Because Odium seemed very concerned about her appearance.
Yes.
And so that makes me think that, like, Lift can kill him.
I agree. I think that's Lift is being set up to be Cultivation's champion in case she ever needs one. I think that the dynamic between Odium and Cultivation is interesting because whilst Cultivation is hiding,
Yeah.
Odium does seem scared of her. I think I'm trying to remember the exact wording of the Wobs. We do know from Brandon that Odium is not wounded, but like scarred.
Yeah.
Like he's been in a fight with at least 4 shards.
Well, he's killed that many.
Well, he's killed that many. 5 actually. It might be 5. Devotion, Dominion, Ambition, Honor. Okay, 4.
Yeah.
And so he's, I don't want to say wounded, but he's scarred and he has weaknesses because of this. And so whilst he's all like, ha ha ha, I'll just beat Cultivation, when I feel like it, is kind of he's clearly scared of her.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I'm excited for that one.
I love that Odium seems to be like this giant god of hate seems to be afraid of this little teenage girl.
To be fair,
it's
because Lift doesn't work like the others.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just take away Stormlight because she doesn't operate that way.
Yeah.
Like, she's definitely different.
Definitely.
Because of her corruption.
Yeah.
And she got her ability from the Night Mother. Night Watcher. I always call it Night Mother. I don't know why.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what Night Mother's from.
I don't know.
I feel like that's what they call the god in Skyrim for the assassins. I feel like that's the Night Mother. Maybe.
But she's different, and
yes.
I'm very interested.
And I'm sure you would have found it out by now. I think there is a hint that Cultivation was involved with Lift's wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Lift went to go and find the Night Watcher, and she found Cultivation instead.
Interesting.
I don't think that she found the Night Watcher itself.
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
We're going to get Lift's book eventually, so we're going to see something.
We've already had Lift's book.
Oh my god, we're going to get a bigger one. We've had a Lift novella.
I don't know if I could cope with a whole Lift book, I've got to be honest.
It's going to be after the time skip, and I feel like Lift will have matured by that point.
Well, Wayne didn't mature.
I mean, that's fair. God, could you imagine if Wayne turned up in Lift book?
Oh, I genuinely wouldn't be able to read it. As long as, the childish behaviour in a 13-year-old is fine.
Yeah.
As long as she does mature.
You could already see her maturing. You could already see her.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But, her determination to not grow up worries me.
That, to me, is the beginning of an arc. If at the very least,
I hope so.
That's she's very much a character at the beginning of her arc. Yeah, her growing up and her accepting that, because she wished to not change. Yeah. She's clearly changing. Her accepting her change, that she's changing, is clearly going to be her arc.
I hope so. Yeah. Because I can see her making 8 or 10 oaths. I can see her becoming the most powerful Radiant.
Yeah.
Because she's so young that she's got a lot more potential in her.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about Lift. I like Lift.
Yes, I like Lift.
I want to give her food.
Yes. I want her to come over. I want her to come over and make her pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next character that we're going to go on to is Shallan. So she's recovering from her ordeal that she's just had.
Yeah.
Facing, I don't know what the corruption she faced was.
Do you want me to give you its name now?
The Unmade, yeah.
Yeah, Reshafir.
She was fighting that one.
Yeah.
And she's sitting there drawing, and she's like, no, Shallan, Jasnah's back. You've got to be Scholar now.
Yes, it's like, my ward, go get me tea. And she's like, no?
So she goes to find Jasnah.
Yeah.
Because she's also curious as to how Jasnah survived.
Yeah.
And Jasnah is down exploring the area that they were in.
The mural room. And
Yeah. She's examining the tower.
I just remembered we didn't talk about the murals in the last video. Because if you remember in the Elantris video...
Oh, it's the same mural.
It's the same mural.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, not the same. It's a very similar mural. Of
it's the same mural.
Man, arms outstretched, big blue circle. They represent different things, different men. But
they're too similar.
That is an image in Elantris that you then see again. Yeah.
Same guy.
I don't think it's the same guy, but it's the same image.
Nah, same guy.
Okay.
So Jasnah is next to the big, crystal tower. And she explains to Shallan how fabrials work.
Yeah.
And Shallan is horrified, quite rightly. She's like, you trap Spren?
Yeah. Did you already find that out in Oathbringer?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Fair enough. In my head, that's something we've known for ages.
Well, no. Like,
yeah.
known about it.
Yeah.
But that's the first time that...
The characters.
Well, that's the first time that Jasnah tells Shallan.
Okay.
Because Shallan didn't know how they worked.
Yeah.
So Jasnah tells her to sketch the column, and Shallan's like, oh, I guess I'm back to being your scholar then.
Yeah.
Just as Shallan thought she would be.
Mm-hmm.
Jasnah congratulates her on, obviously, finding
the tower, defeating the Unmade.
Yeah, all of the above.
Yes.
And she asks her how she's not dead, and Jasnah's like, I'm an Elsecaller, duh.
Yeah.
She survived by going to Shadesmar.
Yeah.
But getting there is easy.
Yeah.
Finding the right place to leave is not so easy, which is why it took her so long.
It sounds like there is places on Roshar where the cognitive realm and the physical realm are closer.
Yeah.
And so it takes less stormlight to pass between the realms in those locations.
Yeah.
And apparently one of them's just in a random bit in the Frostlands, like just random middle of nowhere.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So the next Shallan scene, she's in one of the big important Radiant meetings.
Yes.
Sitting in the corner doodling.
Yeah.
And Jasnah calls her over to scribe.
Yeah.
And Shallan's like, if you want a scribe, I'll go and get you one.
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
I asked you to.
I told you to. You are my ward still.
Yeah.
I will decide when your training is finished. Scribe.
Yeah.
She's like, fine. Shallan starts scribing, and she gets distracted.
Yes.
They're discussing the heralds and how to fix the Parshendi problem.
Yes, this is the Jasnah genocide scene.
Yeah. Well, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
The sort of two main suggestions from this meeting.
Sorry. With one of the tags is now going to be your Lucy genocide advocate.
It makes sense, to be fair. Like, how can they come back if they've got no Parshendi bodies to inhabit?
Yeah, yeah.
So, the two kind of theory, like, things that they work out is that they can either kill all of the Parshendi, like, absolutely every last one of them, to stop the void, the fused from returning. Or they can see whether killing the heralds traps them again.
Yeah.
Just gotta find a herald now.
It's like, cool, we're gonna go find our gods and go kill our... Well, I don't know if they're gods or they're more like Jesus-y. I think they're gods because Yesrian is also the Almighty and also the Stormfather. And so I think it's they're gods.
During this time, Jasnah gets distracted and starts drawing Sexy Bridge Boy.
Yeah, obviously.
And Sexy Bridge Boy has just got back from hanging with the Parshendi, who he now knows are just normal people.
Yeah.
So him and Jasnah have a very heated argument.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Jasnah shippers go, ooh, yay!
I get it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never got Jasnah.
I can understand why people put them together.
Yeah.
It's not just that, but later on in the book, he's describing a woman as being, like, attractive.
Yeah.
And being like, she looks a lot like Jasnah.
Okay, fair enough.
So, like, yeah, he's clearly attracted to it.
Okay, fair enough.
And, Sexy Bridge Boy, why not?
I mean, yeah, to be fair.
Jasnah notices that Shallan is drawing Sexy Bridge Boy.
Yeah.
And not taking notes like she's been asked to do. Jasnah calls for, like, a break in the meeting.
Yeah.
She pulls Shallan to the side and she's like, I asked you to take notes. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
You've been leaving meetings early. You're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing as a Radiant. Like, why aren't you taking anything seriously?
Yeah.
Also, you're engaged to Adolin, so stop drawing sexy bitch boys. So then Patton, Jasnah goes back, leaves Shallan to, think things through a bit. And Patton tells Shallan that the room has memories.
Oh, okay.
I wondered if maybe Renarin, with his ability, which at the moment I'm convinced that his ability is to see the future.
Yeah.
I was wondering if potentially could he also see the past?
Okay.
I thought it might be cool if like that was his ability.
Yeah.
If he could use Stormlight to like show what's happened in the room previously.
Yeah.
I thought that might be cool. Like he could go to places and like play out memories that have happened there.
That would be extremely cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know a lot about Renarin's powers, so...
No, that's why I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd say, do you know what? If he can see the future, and there's...
Well, I think he can see the future.
If he can see the future, and... Yeah, maybe he can see the past, you know?
Yeah, I figured that that's maybe what Patton was hinting at with the whole room has memories. So then Shallan goes off to be Vale, because she spends a lot of time as Vale nowadays.
Yes.
Because Vale is better than Shallan, so let's be Vale instead.
Yeah. Which is more confident, the Vale's more confident and all that. It's like,
Yeah. She notices there's a letter in her coat from Maraise.
Yeah.
Because she's got rid of the darkness in the tower. He shares the information he has about Helaram.
Yes.
So the note mentions that there's 2 main groups working to bring back the Voidbringers.
Yeah.
The first one was the Sons of Honor.
Yeah.
Which
Gavilar.
It sounds so wrong.
I don't understand what your problem was with Gavilar. Like,
it's the first name that I come across where every time I say it, I question whether it's right or not.
Yeah, Gavilar's correct.
Don't do that with any of the other names, even though I'm wrong.
You every other name you say wrong and don't question yourself, and then Gavilar you say right and then question yourself. It's incredible.
Every time. So Gavilar and Amaram were working as that group to bring about the desolation.
Yeah.
I think maybe Gavilar was just feeling a bit bored and wanted a new fight.
That's fair. And I think they thought bringing back the Desolations would also bring back the Heralds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a bit extreme just to find the Heralds, just saying.
You know, yeah.
And the other main group were the Skybreakers.
Yes.
And they
were doing the opposite. They were trying to not have the Voidbringers come back.
And they were the only Radiance group that hasn't broken the oath.
Yes, there's one of the epigraphs in Way of Kings mentions that 9 broke their oaths and 1 stuck about. Oh no, wait, sorry, was that Words of Radiance? There might have been a Words of Radiance.
I was going to say it literally says in the letter.
No, yeah, I'm just talking about when it was said before. I might just cut that part.
So they're led by Nail.
Yeah.
At which point I thought, if all the Heralds have broken the Oath Pact, surely killing them won't fix the Oath Pact. I thought, Asniel is the only one that hasn't broken it. Could you kill him?
Okay,
and the Pact still works?
You're mixing up 2 things. There is the Recreants, where the Knights Radiant broke their oaths.
Yeah.
And there is Aharietium, where the Heralds forgoed the Oath Pact.
So this is now too complicated for me.
Yes, there's 2 separate events. This is why early on in the videos you kept mixing up the Heralds and Knights Radiance, and I kept correcting you because you need to separate the Heralds and Knights Radiance. They are 2 separate groups with 2 separate things going on, and like they both forgoed their oaths at different points for different reasons.
Yeah.
So yes.
At which point I came up with my second Oath Pact theory.
Okay.
Right. So I proposed
that
Dalinar forms a new Oath Pact.
Yeah.
But with every single like human on Roshar.
Yes.
And what happens is that it's sort of like Roshar service.
Yeah.
Where every citizen over the age of 18 gets conscripted.
Yeah.
And it's your duty for 1 year at a time to be stuck in damnation.
Yeah.
Holding back the Voidbringers.
Yes.
Now, the way it works, because I'm very aware that you can't just do that, is that you go in for like a month at a time.
Yeah.
And then after your month is done, you're like treated like a king for the next month.
Yeah.
And like you get everything that you could ever ask for.
Yeah.
And then you go back for a month and you repeat that pattern.
Okay.
Until you've done 12 months of service.
Yeah.
Now I'm aware that people break.
Yeah.
So like on the side, there's a couple of people at the same time, but you don't know that anyone else is in there with you. Otherwise you're more likely to break.
Okay.
But like, that's my plan for the next Oath Pact.
Okay, so you kind of have everyone you have a couple of people in there at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
But like, you think you're the only one in there and it's your duty to save Roshar.
Okay.
And that's what keeps you going.
Honest to God, right? Because you told me this theory before and I loved it. So I am on the opinion, the Oath Pact is defunct, get rid of it, no more heralds. I have seen people say, make 10 new heralds. I have never ever seen someone before say, everyone on Roshar should become a herald.
Yeah.
Everyone. Why not?
It's like some countries where like there's military service is mandatory.
Yes.
It's a bit like that where you have to serve your time.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose. You just get told it's your time. You've got to go.
Time. Okay.
But like you make it manageable so that they don't break.
Yeah.
And you get treated like a king in between. So why not?
Yeah. You get like a little medal to say I've done my time on Brace.
Once you're done with your service, you get a little medal to say well done.
Yes. Cool.
It works.
Do you know what? Yeah, it's a solution that I guess would work.
So back to where we were.
I can't even remember where we were.
I can.
Okay.
So the Skybreakers
Yes.
have been going around killing anyone that has, like, is either bonded to a Spren.
Or starting to bond a Spren.
Yeah. So that they can stop the Voidbringers from coming back that way.
Yeah, because they, for some reason, think that the Radiance bringing back would bring back the Voidbringers.
Yeah.
And Nail should know that's not true as well.
Yeah, but he's lost his mind at this point.
Yeah, but he's just, yeah.
So Helaram was taken because they suspected someone from the
Devar
family to be bonding a Spren.
Yeah.
And he seemed the most obvious candidate. So I assume that's the person that was Mum's lover.
Was like the Skybreaker recruiter.
Well, he was someone from the Skybreakers there to kill Shallan because they discovered it was Shallan.
Yeah.
But Helaram wanted to prove himself. Well, the letter says that Helaram wanted to prove himself.
Yeah.
And they think that that's why he tried to kill Amaram.
Yes.
So Veil goes to join her soldiers after she's finished reading this letter.
Yeah.
And they're complains about Shallan, and they're playing this game where, like, you've got to put tiles in the right places.
Yes.
And she wins because she's
got
Shallan.
Stuff, yeah.
One of the soldiers pulls her to the side and begs her to talk to Shallan about giving them something to do.
Yeah.
Because they want to feel useful. Like, they're currently just sitting around all day playing games.
Gambling and just...
And they want to be good. They want to work hard for her.
They joined her because they wanted to be better. She convinced them to join her because she was like, you guys can be better.
And, like, it's quite a place of honour to be a Radiant's personal guard.
Yeah.
And they want to be that.
Yeah.
And as they're playing this game, she catches Ishna spying on her. She pulls Ishna to the side, and Ishna says that she used to be a spy. And Shallan, knowing that she needs a bit more practice being a spy, hires Ishna to train her men on spy skills.
Yeah.
So that she can start using her men as spies, which is quite, makes sense.
And so she can learn as well, because she doesn't know anything, despite Veil pretending that she knows. She actually has no idea.
Well, while she's training the men, it gives Veil an excuse to sit there and
take notes.
Be watching, at which point she can take notes and she can learn. So the next scene is in the tavern, and Ishna is training the men to remember people in a room.
Yeah.
And, like, take note of what's going on around them. So they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Some of them can give vague descriptions of the attractive barmaid behind the bar.
Yeah.
Some can describe a few people.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Vale, what do you see? Vale goes into full details about pretty much everyone in the bar.
Yeah.
And Ishall's like, that's great, but you missed one. And then Shallan's like, no way.
Yeah.
And then she realises that there's a woman sitting at the back of the bar, all in white, sort of like in a little corner.
Yeah.
Taking notes and like spying on all of the patrons in the bar.
I forgot about this.
And Ishna explains that she'll have been sent there to observe soldier morale and report back to whoever employs her.
Yeah.
Vale realises that at this exact moment she's supposed to be in a Radiant meeting.
Yeah.
As Shallan. So she panics and she quickly leaves. She gets to the meeting late. And...
Jasnah's like, Shallan, we talked about this.
Yeah. And she's sitting there because, you know, she's scribing again because Shallan's a scholar.
Yes.
And Shallan is supposed to be a scholar. And I started thinking, you know, is Shallan going to stop being Shallan? Like, she's starting to crack and she's starting to fall apart a bit.
Okay.
So I thought maybe this was sort of like the start of her having like some kind of breakdown.
Okay.
And I thought maybe like she's enjoying being Vale so much.
Is she just going to start being Vale all the time?
Yeah, like she doesn't seem to be enjoying Shallan anymore.
Yeah.
Like she sees Shallan as being quite weak. And she's starting to resent Shallan a bit.
Okay.
So I thought maybe does like Shallan stop being Shallan?
Yeah.
So yeah. Renarin then comes to join the meeting. This meeting is between like squires. So it's a bit strange that he's there. But it seems that he's trying to become a scholar.
Oh, yes, the scholarly meeting, yeah.
They're talking about the Fabrials in the tower. And he pipes up and says that it's not Fabrials, it's Fabrial. Like,
yes.
There's just one.
Yeah, the whole tower is just one big.
At which point he gets mocked. And Shallan really goes to town on them. Like, you do not speak to Dav.
We had Janalar earlier. Is it Davilar? Are you going to say Davilar? Yeah.
You know, you don't speak to Dalinar's son like that. Like,
yeah.
You show him respect. He's an important person. And Jasnah pulls her to the side and she's like, no. Like, my mum was about to say something. You don't just cut in. You don't just make your voice heard like that.
Yeah.
And then Renarin approaches her and he's like, thank you. Like,
Renarin's a big sweetie.
He is. And he says that he tells Shallan that the best way he's found to deal with Jasnah being Jasnah is to avoid her. At which point Shallan decides that she's going to try and see if she can go on Kaladin's trip to Kholinar so that she can avoid Jasnah.
Yeah.
And Dalinar arrives at the meeting.
Yes, to support Renarin being there.
Yeah, he seems really awkward and uncomfortable, but he's there to support Renarin.
Yeah.
It's nice that he finally acknowledges Renarin.
He's like, oh yes, my other son.
That one.
That one. I love my children, Adolin and not Adolin, just as much as one another.
She then gets another letter from Reyes, telling her all about Ishnah's past.
Yeah.
Ishnah wasn't a spy, she was an assistant to a spy. And they're going to give Shallan permission to keep interacting with her.
Okay, that's cool.
And Shallan is quite annoyed because she doesn't need their permission. She can do what she wants. And why does everyone think that they can tell Shallan what to do?
Yeah. And
Shallan is weak, so she's going to be Vale because Vale is strong.
Yeah.
And she's waiting outside Elkar's office to talk to him.
Yeah.
And she is checking out her latest illusion. So she has worked out that she can bond her illusions to the spheres themselves.
Spheres, yeah. So
she has transformed her bag to look differently.
Yeah.
And she's put the illusion on one of the spheres inside the bag.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't have to...
Use it as, like, use her own Stormlight she can attach it to.
Yeah, and she doesn't have to think about it. It will just stay on there.
Until the sphere runs out.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where she goes with that one.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's like the illusion things just appear to be the sneaky stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's just lots of utility to this sneakiness. Like,
yeah.
I like it.
And then she goes into Elhakar's office and she convinces him to let her come on the Kholinar trip.
Yeah.
With a couple of her men. And she says, you know, if we get there and you need spies, it makes sense for me to be there. We can scope out the city. We can make sure everything's safe. I can give people disguises. So Elhakar obviously agrees to... Yeah. Well, he says that he'll ask Dalinar. And she's like, mate, neither one of us is being controlled by Dalinar.
Why do you need to ask Dalinar, you know?
And so, yeah, he agrees. And he gives her a formal request. And she's lying to herself about going because she wants to be helpful and not because she's running away from Jasnah.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave Shallan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice...
Slow pace. So then the next point of view we get is Bridgeman.
Yes, let's go through the Bridgeman now.
So each Bridgeman section seems to be one of the Bridgemen.
Yeah.
It's like all different points of view.
Yeah.
It was really sweet. I love this bit.
I really, really like the Bridgeman point of views.
Yeah, like it's nice to finally...
get some other point of views, characters.
Yeah, well, they're sort of all background characters, so it's nice to get to know them a bit more.
Yeah.
The first one is Sigsil.
Yeah.
Who is going about his morning routine. He uses Stormlight to assist him.
Yeah.
Because they're now able to access Stormlight.
Yeah.
He had been shaving, so he used it to fix up all the little cuts on his face.
Yeah.
Leaves his room to find Lopen hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Lopen is using this opportunity to train himself to eat upside down on the ceiling.
Yes.
Lopen.
Yeah.
Love him.
Lopen's great.
He goes to find Kaladin. Sigsil is the only one that can write. Mm-hmm. And so he sort of acts more as like their scholar.
Yeah, their scribe.
So he goes to talk to Kaladin. Now Kaladin is back from his family time.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, what's going on? You realise that our finances are a bit messy.
Yeah.
Who pays us now? Like, are we our own people?
Yeah.
Are we still under Dalinar?
What
Can
is going
Dalinar
on?
still tell us to go and fight for him? You know, we've got men that are close to getting married. We don't have any family quarters.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? We've got lots of different religions going on.
Yeah.
What do we do about that?
Yeah, how do we do like burial services and...
Yeah. We've got two guys that are dating and they've not filled out the paperwork.
Yes.
And Kaladin's like, mate, we're not in Azir. We don't need paperwork for that. They just do, and it's okay. And Sigsil is very confused by that because he is used to the paperwork.
They like their paperwork in Azir.
Yeah. And he is just talking about generally needing scribes because at the moment there's no women, so they don't have any of that.
So he's like the only one who's doing everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't keep doing everything.
Yeah. And at that point, Lynn...
Yes. Lynn.
Yeah. Lynn arrives because she's a scribe, but she's a
scout.
She's a scout, but she's really interested in Bridge 4.
Yeah.
So, like, any time that someone needs to interact with them, she volunteers.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, you come here a lot. And she's like, yes, I like you guys.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, cool, do you want to join us? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's my dream. And he's like, great, because we need some scribes. And she's like, oh.
She's like, no, I don't want to be a scribe. I want to be a soldier of Bridge 4.
Yeah. And Kaladin's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to hold some tryouts because we need more men. So you're welcome to try out, see if you can make the team. And she agrees to that because, you know, fair.
Yeah.
they're walking down the corridor at this point because Kaladin's off to go and collect something.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, like, issues that they've now got to address that Kaladin's back. Like, what's their chain of command? The wage issue, like, how are they getting paid? How much do they now get paid because they are now Radiants?
Yeah.
Well, they're
Squires.
So, like, there's not even, like, a pay ranking for them
Yeah, it's
now.
like, what would you pay, like, a demigod? Like,
yeah. So, they go and pick up these gigantic gemstones that they're borrowing from Elhokar to train with.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Sigzil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's adorable. I like him.
Yeah, I like learning more about Sigzil. He's trying to get things organised, and everyone's like, it's fine. And he's like, no, it's not fine. Who pays us? Where do we get uniforms from? Where do we get weapons from? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Sigzil.
Yeah, he knows what's going down.
Yeah. Who's next?
It's Rock!
I love the Rock chapter.
So Rock is cooking whilst they're training out on the plains.
Yeah.
Doing what he normally does. All of the other guys are learning to use Stormlight. So they all say the first oath.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are already able to breathe in Stormlight then go in groups to... Well, they all go with a group to try and get them to draw Stormlight.
Yeah.
And Kaladin is trying to encourage Hobber. Hobber.
Yeah.
Kaladin is trying to encourage Hobber breathe in Stormlight. And he's like, mate, I'm no use to you anymore. Like, my legs don't work.
Yeah.
I'm not a good fighter anyway. And Kaladin's like, yeah, but you're an honest guy. We need you. Like, please try.
Yeah.
Elhokar arrives, so Kaladin goes off to talk to him. And he has come to approach Kaladin about going to Kholinar with him and taking back Kholinar.
Yeah.
So Kaladin agrees, but says that he's going to need like a month to train his guys.
Yeah.
And he'd want to go during a high storm so that they can use the high storm to fly.
Yeah.
Elhokar agrees to all of this, tells him to practice as much as he can, because obviously he needs his guys.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Renarin comes to join them.
Yeah.
He's just finished his gate duty, and he's come to train with the guys, and he joins Rock with the cooking.
Yeah.
And he tells Rock that he doesn't think he belongs in Bridgefor anymore because he can't do Stormlight.
Because he's not a Windrunner, and it's because he's not a Windrunner, and he's
Oh, poor Renarin.
Poor Renarin.
Rock comments that he can't see Renarin's Spren.
Yes.
So Rock
normally see Spren.
Yeah, and he can see Kaladin's, he can see Shallan's, he can see all of the others.
Yeah.
Can't see Renarin's.
Mm-hmm.
Which again leads me to believe that his Spren is corrupted.
Yeah.
So Rock points out the fact that Raylan is
also kind of an outsider.
Yeah. So he goes to join Raylan. Like, they normally just sit together. They don't really talk, but they like appreciate each other's company.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Scar is struggling to draw Stormlight, but in his talks with Rock...
Yeah. He does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rock manages to do it because of the things that Scar says to him. Rock notices that some Spren have arrived and are watching, and there's like a big woman Spren surrounded by like other little white Spren.
Yeah.
And Syl says that they won't talk to her because she left and she was right to leave.
Yeah.
And they don't want to admit that they were wrong. So Rock, because they're like, Rock sees Spren as gods.
Yeah.
So he
leaves like a offering out for them.
Yeah, he fills a bowl with spheres.
Yeah.
And he takes it to them so they can draw in Stormlight.
Yeah.
And the big one draws some Stormlight in and then leaves. And the others like stay around to watch for a little bit. It's really cute.
Yeah.
He goes back to Hobber.
Hmm.
And Hobber manages to breathe in Stormlight.
Yeah.
And like they give him a lot so that he can regrow his legs.
Yeah.
And then whilst this is happening, Rock looks over and he sees smoke coming from the plains.
Yeah.
So they grab a bridge and they run over to go and investigate or help.
Yeah.
Kaladin flies over because he's the only one that can fly at the moment.
Yeah.
And they get there and it's a caravan that's been attacked.
Yeah.
And it's like burnt out. There's a few bodies. And there's like a makeshift shelter that's been like
erected.
Yeah. And from the shelter, Rock's family emerges.
Yeah.
So he's introducing them to everyone.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, mate, now your family's here, you take my room.
Yeah.
I will go and bunk with the other guys, and hopefully that will encourage me to get the family accommodation sorted.
Yeah.
So Rock obviously takes that and is very grateful for it. And now we've got Rock's family.
Yeah, and they're adorable, aren't they?
Yeah.
It is great.
And they, on their walk back, are reminiscing because this is the last time they're ever going to carry a bridge.
The last run of Bridge 4.
Because now they can all draw Stormlight in.
They're all going to start flying.
Yeah. And that was a really lovely moment.
It's really, really nice. I really love it. Interesting thing. Who's attacking the caravans on the Shattered Plains? Do you remember?
They say it was the Voidbringers.
Yes. However, the stuff being taken, it's like food and stuff. And did you think it weird that Voidbringers would be attacking caravans to get food and stuff?
Yeah.
Do you know who else it could be that's attacking the caravans?
I assume it's Parshendi, and that's why they've been mistaken for Voidbringers.
Yes, it's the group of Parshendi that left Narak. Yeah. Well, I don't know this for certain, but that's what I assume is.
I
is
hope
this,
so.
It's the group of the group with Venli's and Eshonai's mother in it, basically.
Well, they're Relane's friends and family, so I hope they're still alive.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
So this is like the only hint you get at this group of people.
Yeah,
this group that left the thing, and we get this little hint, and so it's like
right. So then the next Bridgeman is Teft.
Yeah,
who has been missing for the last couple of Bridgeman chapters.
Yeah,
and we find out why. He wakes up in an alleyway. Not in a good way.
Yeah.
He's stumbling around. He's talking about committing suicide because he's such a disgrace to his men.
Yeah.
He sold his jacket and he's grateful for that because it means that people don't know who he is, so he's not embarrassing anyone.
Yeah.
So hard. He goes over to get some water from a water barrel.
Yeah.
And a Spren's in there looking up at him, and he tells it to go away and bother someone else, find someone else.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's a Radiant that hasn't bonded to his Spren yet, but the Spren seems to be following him, because I think this is the second time now he's referenced a Spren
following him.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
He can't return to Bridge 4 in the state that he's in.
Yeah.
So he figures the best thing to do is go back to the tent he was in last night and to get some more fire moss.
Yeah.
And he has 3 bowls and he's slumped out on the table.
Yeah.
And as he's slumped out on the table, Kaladin and Rock come to find him.
Yeah.
They pay for his bowls. They take him back to a little room. Like, he's been using this because when he goes too long without it, he feels pain.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that works for him. It's kind of like a drug.
It's very much a drug. It's like an opiate kind of thing.
Yeah. And he used to take it. It's why he got demoted to being a bridgeman, because he took it. He was late for his soldier duties.
Yeah.
So he got kicked down to being a bridgeman. And he knew that once he started getting money again, it was only a matter of time before he went back to taking the stuff.
Yeah.
So they put him in a little room with some blankets and a little bowl of like soup. And he tells them that, he's going to let them help him, and that was the last time. But he knows that it wasn't the last time.
Yeah. It's just a heartbreaking chapter all around.
It really is.
Yeah.
I felt for him. So then the next one is Scar.
Okay.
So Scar is racing to the Oath Gate against the other members of Bridge 4.
Yeah.
And Sigsil is already there, like, noting down times.
Yeah.
Those with Stormlight have managed to get there in, like, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
It took Scar 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And Scar is starting to feel a bit useless because he can't draw Stormlight.
Yeah.
And he's starting to feel like he doesn't belong on the team and that they're all gonna leave him behind.
Yeah.
Poor Scar.
Poor Scar.
So Kaladin, they're waiting for Kaladin at the gate. Kaladin arrives, and the reason it's taken Kaladin so long is that he's bringing new recruits.
Yeah.
So he's got a team that he's managed to gather. It includes, like, Lyn. It's got some old, like, soldiers that he's managed to incorporate into
his
his
some of
new
the
team.
Calling Guard as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bunch.
Yeah.
And whilst they're there waiting, Scar notes that he doesn't feel like he's part of the team because he's the only one that, because he can't draw Stormlight, he still has his slave brands on his forehead, whereas the others have all recovered. And
except Kaladin, who's still got his as well.
Yeah, sexy Kaladin. So they get to the Shattered Plains and they're going to be practicing flying. Is just feeling rather useless. And he sees that Lyn is sitting on her own.
Yeah.
So he goes to console her. And she's really upset about the fact that she can't draw Stormlight.
Yeah.
And Scar is talking to her. And he tells her about the first time that Kaladin used Stormlight.
Yeah.
And it was the time when they're running with the bridge and he managed to get the arrows to
hit the bridge instead of him. Yeah.
And that's when Scar knew there was something special about Kaladin.
Yeah.
And he explains that Kaladin was doing it to protect others. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to be something great.
Yeah.
He was doing it because he wanted to help. And from that conversation, Lyn mentions that she also wants to draw Stormlight because she wants to protect.
Yeah.
And she manages to draw Stormlight in.
Aww.
And she's really excited. And she's the first non-Bridge 4 member to be able to draw it. So everyone around is really excited. And Scar leaves a bit disappointed. Like, he's excited for her. But at the same time, he's now the only one that can't.
Yeah. And now the people who weren't part of the bridges and are now doing it. So it's like, oh, well, this is kind of sucky.
So he approaches Rock and he's like, well, the only place left for me is on your cooking crew.
Yeah.
And Rock's like, but mate, you're glowing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he realises he did check it and he just didn't notice. He's a silly Scar. So, yeah.
So lovely.
It's very, very nice.
And then we get the final Bridgeman chapter.
Yeah.
It's Relane, who is sitting on the plains, looking out at his old home, singing the Song of Loss.
Yeah.
Because obviously his old home is now gone. All of his friends and family are dead.
Yeah.
He's the last one.
Yeah.
And he's upset about it. Like, he's upset that although they've trusted him with a spear and he's learning to use it, they don't trust him to use Stormlight. Like, they haven't even tried to teach him how to draw it.
Yeah, they just don't even try and...
Yeah. And he doesn't feel like he really fits in with anyone. But there also isn't anywhere for him to go. And he doesn't particularly like humans because all the years of what the humans have done.
Yeah.
But he likes Kaladin and he likes Bridge 4 because at least they try to include him. And he feels like even the new recruits fit in better with Bridge 4 than he fits in.
Yeah.
He feels that his people were tricked into bringing back the Voidbringers.
Yeah.
And there's people like making fun of the Parshendi
and
saying how they're going to kill them. And they're like, oh, no offense, Relane.
And he's like, no, but offense though.
Yeah. And they're like, right, Relane, tell us about these Voidbringers. You know, what can we do? And Relane's like, look,
I don't know.
They're not my people.
Yeah.
Like,
I know about as
I'm
much
not
as you
one
do.
of them. And even if, like, I just don't know. Like, stop assuming that because I look like them, I am one.
Yeah. Yeah.
His point of view is quite difficult.
His point of view was it's very upsetting just to see what he's going through. Like we hear from all the bridge point of views, they're very much my life sucks. And then you kind of get to Relay who's like, and it's not getting that much better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He then goes and sits with all of Bridge 4 and they're sitting around having a meal.
Yeah.
And one of them is like, hey, we need to have quite a serious talk. We've got Renarin learning to write.
Yeah.
Can't really put up with that.
Yeah.
Like, that's too feminine for me.
Yeah.
And Kaladin's like, mate, we're all a bit different.
Yeah.
And we've got Dre over there who's literally going out with a boy.
Yeah.
That's a bit more feminine. And then luckily,
yeah,
the rest of Bridge 4 are like, whoa, 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 Kaladin.
Well, like,
that's a very old-fashioned view.
Like, if anything, dating a dude is super masculine because now it's two dudes.
Which I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Like, that was quite a nice little touch.
Yeah.
And so they all agree that actually it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, they're all a bit different.
Yeah.
And Rock points out that every single one of them has approached him within the last week.
Yeah, saying they felt left out.
Yeah, and that they didn't feel like they knew where their place was anymore.
Yeah.
And like it was sort of that moment where they all sort of realised that they all feel the same way.
Yeah.
It was a really lovely scene of like guys feeling emotion and
Yeah.
it being okay.
Yes.
So cute. Such a good moment.
That moment of Bridge 4 camaraderie is so well done, and I just it's a really nice way of just showing just a group of dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
So they all go back to training with Stormlight, and Kaladin looks over and notices that Relaine looks quite annoyed.
Yeah.
So Kaladin's like, mate, what's up? And Relaine's like, don't want to talk about it. And Kaladin's like, no, come on. Talk to me, help me understand. And that's where we leave the Bridgeman.
Yeah.
I really hope that Kaladin does get him learning how to use Stormlight.
Yeah.
I wonder if he can use Stormlight. It would be interesting to find out.
It would be, yeah.
And at least if he can't, like, at least him being included in this would be nice.
Yeah.
Like, I love Relaine, and I hate the idea of Relaine feeling left out.
Yeah. Relaine is very, very good. He's a good boy. He's a good lad.
So then we get to Jasnah.
Yeah.
So she is reading the notes from Tonal.
Yeah.
Because obviously he was talking. That got written down. So she's reading the things that he was saying.
Yeah.
And in the background, there's 3 spam reads working away.
Yeah.
Because while she lost everything on the boat.
Yeah.
She
had
already
it recorded elsewhere and it was copying it back down.
Yeah. So she's getting all of her notes back. And she's talking to Ivory, who says that it was Tonal. Like, this isn't just some madman. It
guy.
Was actually the Herald. And she asked him what he thinks about Shallan. Okay. And he tells her that he thinks she's unstable.
He's Ivory knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. And he says that cryptics are trouble.
Yeah.
Interesting. Jasnah says that he thinks that about everyone. So, like, that's nothing new. So I don't know, I feel like he means it this time.
Yeah.
She asks him if he thinks that she should share with him what Wit told her.
Yes.
And he says that not everyone can handle
that information.
And he thinks that it will cause another recreance.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wit shared some interesting secrets.
Yeah. She's pondering Yakaved. And she's thinking about, like, ancient times. About when... it's a story about an old king who his family kept trying to assassinate him.
Yeah.
Because obviously they wanted the throne.
Yeah.
And she's sort of trying to think about why that sort of thing occurs in a family and, like, what can be done to stop it.
Yeah.
Because obviously she doesn't want the same happening to her family.
She doesn't want them to fall to infighting.
Yeah, and she notes the sort of conflict that seems to be there between Dalinar
And Elhokar.
And how the dynamic has changed slightly while she's been gone.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting.
Mm.
During this, she's talking to her friends on Spamreed.
Yeah.
In Azir.
Yeah.
And she's finding out information from them. And one of them mentions the way Spren look, like the bonded Spren look.
Yeah.
And Jasnah asks Shallan to draw all of the bonded Spren.
Yeah.
So that they can compare.
Yes.
And they say that they know what the Cultivation bonded Spren look like.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, so you have a Radiant? And they're like, we had a Radiant.
Yes.
And she's like, how do you lose your Radiant?
Yeah.
And they're like, have you ever tried to control an Edge Dancer?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very easily.
Yeah.
So she's monitoring all the other people in this like meeting room.
Yeah.
And like she's like lip reading to see their different conversations.
Mm.
And she notices Renarin talking to himself in the corner.
Oh.
And it doesn't seem quite right.
Interesting.
So she goes to grab Shallan so that they can go and have a little chat with him.
Mm.
And Shallan is talking with Navani about wedding stuff.
Of course.
Finally. Glad this is happening.
Yeah.
And as she gets to Shallan, Amaram walks in.
Oh, yes. This is this chapter.
And he's like, hey, heard you were here, Jasnah. Can we go and talk? And she's like, no, go
She's
away.
like, no.
I don't like you. And he is like, I was kind of hoping we could rekindle our relationship. And she was like, there was never a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to happen. And he's like, but it could. And she's like, your mum was a whore.
Yep, she just straight up comes out and says that, yeah. But legitimately, she's all like, oh, if you're looking around the war camps, maybe you should do what your mother did.
So he gets mad about that. Don't know why. And he goes to summon his shard blade.
Mm-hmm.
And so she puts her hand out and it's like got black smoke around it. And she's like, mate,
you want to go?
Go for it.
You want to go?
Give me a reason.
I'm ready to go. Jasnah's great. I love it.
So he leaves.
Yeah.
Without a new bride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good for Jasnah.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of this chapter,
yeah,
I've completely skipped out. When she's talking to Ivory, she mentions how as a small child she remembers being locked in a dark room and screaming endlessly.
Yes.
So I wonder if she was like locked in some sort of institution at some point.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know more about that one.
Oh yeah, don't worry. You'll get that in about 18 years' time. Don't worry.
Oh. That's a shame.
Yeah.
So then Shallan is like, wow, Jasnah, you're really hot, and that was really cool.
That was quoted ad verbatim, that was.
That is a direct quote.
Yeah.
And Jasnah's like, probably shouldn't have lost it like that. And then Shallan uses this opportunity to tell her that she's going with Elhokar and the hot bridge boy.
Yeah.
And Jasnah is like, mate, I'm going to try and stop it. And then Renarin appears.
Yeah.
And he pushes one of the wall tiles.
Yeah.
And it opens up and inside is a strangely carved gem.
Yeah.
And it seems that they contain knowledge.
Yes.
So yay.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah, the way that those work is really cool. So when you have a gemstone with light in them, it leaks that light. And the idea with these gemstones is you put them on a light and you put it on like a metal plate.
Yeah.
And as it leaks light in such a way where it'll vibrate slightly.
Yeah.
And it vibrates against the metal plate and it plays the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess that's the secrets that the room was hiding.
Yes.
Cool. So then we get our flashbacks.
Yes.
So it starts with Evi Prego.
Yeah.
Dalinar is watching the Fabrial fireplace and Evi comes to join him.
Yeah.
And he comments on how he loves watching the flame Spren fighting.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, they're not fighting.
They're dancing.
They're dancing. Dalinar, why does everything have to be about fighting? Can't you just live a bit?
Yeah.
You know, let's try living and being normal people. And he's like, nah, mate.
He's like, nah,
fighting.
Fighting.
And she tells him that he should go and find a Night Watcher to help him to
become better.
be able to live.
Yeah.
And he's like, mate, that's pagan. No.
Mm.
He then gets summoned to Gavilar.
Yeah.
And Gavilar is like, mate, the Rathalas wants their blades back. And then that's when Dalinar admits that all those years ago, he didn't kill that small child with the blade.
Nope.
He let him and his mum escape.
Yeah.
And Gavilar's like, mate, you've caused a massive issue.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's like, mate, I'll just go and kill them. And he's like, no, we're going to try and politics this.
Yeah.
And Evi has overheard this. And she's really pleased that Dalinar had a human moment and chose not to kill for once. Dalinar regrets that decision massively. So Gavilar is going to fix it with politics.
Yeah.
All good. Our next flashback is Dalinar enjoying his fire moss.
Oh, yes.
Watching some fighting. Like, it seems to be some, like, boxing match
it's like a
style thing.
Yeah.
And he's enjoying his fire moss. He's drinking with the lads.
Yeah.
He's watching the fighting. The final fight has to be cancelled because the guys dropped out. Dalinar's like, mate, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Takes his top off, goes in the ring. The other guy backs down. And Dalinar's like, is this some like social faux pas that has occurred?
Yeah.
And he's like, mate, don't worry, you won't hurt me. And they're like, no, Dalinar.
I can't.
Everyone's scared to fight you.
Yeah.
You literally, like, injured some people a couple of weeks back in a bar fight.
Yeah.
No one wants to fight you.
It's not like a rank thing. It's you're the Blackthorn.
Yeah. So he goes back to just drinking with his friends. And a messenger runs in. Toe, Evi's brother, runs in. And he's like, Evi's given birth! Evi's given birth! So Dalinar goes off to join that.
Yeah.
And he holds his son for the first time, and he feels thrilled about something other than fighting for once.
The first time, yeah.
And now he can understand why Gavilar wants to build a secure, stable nation.
Yeah.
And he finally gets it. He finally gets that maybe there's more to life than fighting.
Yeah.
He calls his son Adolin.
Yeah.
And he's so happy.
Which means born unto light, I want to say.
I think so.
Or am I thinking of Oridan?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Cool.
And Gavilar turns up and he's like, mate, such a lovely, happy family moment.
Yeah.
Can you go and sort out some border skirmishes for me?
Yeah.
And he's obviously more than thrilled to go and fix those issues.
Yeah.
Oh, and when Gavilar turns up, Dalinar is like, mate, how's Jasnah doing?
Oh, yeah.
With her lunacy.
Yeah.
And Gavilar's like, don't worry, we got it under control.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what's going on with Jasnah?
Yeah. The next flashback, he's been fighting for 4 years. He's exhausted after a fight. He's getting Kadesh to give him the battle report. He loves the fact that the skirmishes are still ongoing and he has to keep going to new border places to fix everything.
Yeah.
He goes to sleep and he hears Evi's voice. And he wakes up and he's like, what are you doing here, woman?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, all the Alethi women join their husbands in the fighting. I wanted to be a good Alethi wife for you, so I've come to join you.
Yeah.
She started wearing her hair like an Alethi woman.
Yeah.
She started covering her safe hand properly and trying desperately to do everything right-handed, finally. Yeah. And he's like, he's not happy that she's there at all. And she's like, but you've not been back for years. You've not even met Renarin yet.
Yeah.
And he's like, what is Renarin?
Yeah.
And she's like, it's what I called our other son. And he's like, I hate that name. What even is that?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I sent you a letter and you didn't reply. And he's like, ha ha ha. And then she's like, don't worry, I've brought the boys here to meet you. And he's like, what? Woman, you brought my children to a battlefield.
I think it's more about the fact that she was invading his space.
Yeah, definitely.
It was like she's right. Alethi women do go with their husbands to battle.
Yeah,
but he was more angry about the fact that she was like, I'm fighting. This is my thing, and you are coming into my thing, and I don't like that.
Yeah. So he goes with her to go and see his sons.
Yeah.
Adolin is on a rock playing war with his toys. And he's really loving watching Adolin's imagination. And he's like, wow, my beautiful son. I love my son so much. Come here, my boy.
Yeah.
And Adolin is a bit... He's
hesitant.
He's hesitant, but he's not scared.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's like, yes, my son. So wise, so clever.
Yeah.
And he's so excited to meet his dad because he's not really seen his dad.
Yeah.
So he wants to salute him because he wants to be a good soldier.
Yeah.
And Dalinar's like, wow, I've never been so proud in my life.
Yeah.
And then the nurse comes out with new baby Renarin, who is about 1 at this point. He's a toddler. He's not a newborn baby.
Yeah.
She puts him down and he starts crawling over. And Dalinar's like, what is this?
Why have you brought this to me? What is this? Why is this not another one of
You told me
those?
I had a second son, not something playing with grass.
Yeah.
That is not a sword.
Why is there a baby here? I expected a soldier.
Yeah.
I expect them to come marching out of your womb.
And then he goes to sleep and he says he'll deal with this in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave the flashbacks.
Oh, it was only a couple then?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a lot for this one.
Yeah.
Interludes.
Oh, who are these interludes?
Our first one is Kaza.
Yes, the Kaza interlude.
She's enjoying the storm on the ship. And...
Now, the storm she's enjoying is specifically a barrier storm around the Amian Islands, because for some reason Amia has a big storm protecting it. This is not the high storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to drag her into the ship, because obviously it's dangerous to be on the top. And she's under there. They've paid for her specifically to join them, because they want the
soulcasting
Vasment treasure?
I don't know what it's called.
I don't know. Essentially, the Alethi Islands being...
Amian Islands.
The Amian Island being abandoned means that lots of gem crabs... They've got...
Gem hearts. Great shells.
Yeah. Great shells go to the island, they die, and their gem hearts are left where the corpses are because no one's on the island. So there's this great treasure on this island, allegedly. Yeah. And they're desperate to get to it because nobody has ever got to it. And the islands are surrounded by a whole ring of spiky rocks. Yeah. So they've brought Kaza because she's a soulcaster to get through the stones. Yeah. She pulls her hood down and you see that she's not all there. She's got a big hole in her face. Yeah. She's missing fingers. Excessive soul casting is slowly killing her.
Yes.
And they give her some food to eat, but to her, she doesn't taste anything anymore. Her stomach isn't really functioning anymore. But she eats it anyway. And they approach the island on little dinghies. She soul casts a hole in the rock. Yeah. And the smoke is calling to her to follow. Yes. And she almost does this time. She realizes that she's not got a lot of time left before this kills her. Yeah. And she's close to dying every single time that she soul casts. Yes. But she fights it off and she continues living. Yeah. The dinghy is going through the rocks. And suddenly the men on hers and all of the other boats start...
just dropping dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she starts rowing the boat to the island.
Yeah.
And she doesn't feel too good. She realises that the cook has poisoned the food, and the cook's like, should have known that it wouldn't kill you off.
Yeah.
And they were right. The island is covered in gem hearts.
Yeah, giant great shell corpses cover the land. And
Yeah. And she says that she's done this to protect the secret of the island.
a secret that could end worlds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Kaza kills herself by soul casting the ground underneath her.
Yeah. And then
So,
going off with the smoke.
yeah. So, I am convinced
Yeah.
that this island is where Cultivation is currently hiding.
Okay.
And there's something around the island, which is why Odium can't
Yeah.
find her.
There's like a storm protecting the island, so it could be the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Amiens are working to keep her hidden.
Yeah.
So that's my theory on
Okay.
what is hidden on the island.
Interesting.
Because Kaza agreed to go to the island because she was hoping to find something on the island to help her not die from soul casting.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Cultivation.
Okay. So, yeah, Kaza was a soul casting savant.
Yeah.
You may remember Spook in Mistborn from
Yeah.
burning tin too much, and it started having negative effects on his body.
Yeah.
Very convenient. So this is a similar kind of thing because she's an ardent who only ever uses the smoke stone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember in Way of Kings, they mention how soulcasters usually either they come in ones or they come in threes.
Yeah.
So normally a soulcaster can only use one or it can use multiple. So Jasnah had a multiple. Kaza only has a one soulcaster.
I mean, Jasnah didn't have a multiple.
I mean,
Jasnah just was.
Jasnah just was the soulcaster, yeah. And so, yeah, Kaza, that's what's going on with Kaza. I have a different theory.
Yeah.
Because if you remember... Oh, actually, I don't know if you know this yet. No, I don't think the theory I have has been in epigraph you've read yet. So
Sad.
let's move on.
Okay. So the next one is Taravangian.
Yeah.
On this day, he is dangerously clever.
Yes.
He tricks them by not filling out the last answer on the test, says that it's too advanced for him,
Yeah.
knowing that they would judge him to be clever but not dangerous, and they would let him be himself. So he asks for the diagram. He immediately starts cutting it up, writing all over it, rearranging it, sticking it to the walls.
Adrotagia
comes in.
I love how I knew exactly what you were trying to say. You just went, and I knew exactly who you meant.
Yeah. And he she confronts him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you got me. I knew you were going to catch me. But look what I've done.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, what have you done? He's been calculating the area of Irrefut
Ethereal.
and how many people it can hold, how much food it can grow. And he calculates that it's not sustainable as it is.
Yeah.
The only way it can be sustainable is if they have a way to grow food in the dark.
Yeah.
That's the only way that this place is going to hold and sustain a population.
Okay.
He decides that it's now too late to kill Dalinar. Like, at any point. The best plan of action is to support Dalinar.
Yeah.
And overthrow him eventually.
Okay.
He does say that Renarin's a loose cannon. Which, to me, if my theory about him being able to see the future is right, that's why Taravangi would be scared of him.
Okay.
He says that they can't kill Odium.
Yeah.
But they have the power to save a small percentage of the human population.
Yeah.
Which I have a feeling is what happens in all of the recurrences. Recreances. Is the Radiants quit.
Yeah.
Because they realise that in order to do their job, they've got to kill like 90% of humanity.
Okay.
I feel like in order for the Radiants to quit, it has to be something that they deem as going against their oaths if they do it.
Yeah.
So it's either got to be to do with killing people or like letting people die.
Yeah.
Like it has to be.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm still working on that.
I think I see where you're kind of going with that. Yeah.
it's a work in progress.
Work in progress, yeah.
So then we get to our last interlude, which is Venli.
Yes.
She's waiting for the Everstorm to arrive with a group of, what do they call themselves at the moment? Listeners.
Yeah.
So she's with a group of chosen listeners.
Yeah.
And they've been told that they have to give themselves completely to the storm. The storm hits and she can feel something pushing on her soul.
Yeah.
Something is screaming in agony inside her.
Yeah.
And then a kind voice says, no, this one's mine.
Yes.
So the storm finishes and she's taken a different form. It's really tall. It's really...
Yeah.
It's not what she was expecting to look like.
It's lanky. Yeah, it's tall.
And she says that it looks similar to...
Nimble form.
But she knows it's not. It's like an advanced version of that. Yeah. She looks around at the others and they're speaking a language that she does not understand. She can't communicate with them.
Yeah.
She looks at her old partner and like all of the others are like really big and muscular.
Yeah.
And she tries to talk to him and she gets like very much told, no, do not speak to him.
Yeah.
The Spren is like, what have you done?
Yeah.
You're like, you were supposed to take in one of
the fused souls.
Yeah. Like the advanced ones though, like the top level of it.
Yeah, one of the good fused. One of the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some reason you've disobeyed, blah, blah, blah. And like her partner's like, no, she can talk to me.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's happened? Like, why aren't you anymore?
Yeah.
And he's like, your mate is dead.
Yeah, I have taken his body.
Odium has plans for you, which is why you've not got this form.
Yeah.
He's got something better in mind for you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And she starts pleading with Hariel.
Yeah.
Who is the one that's currently in her mate's body.
Yeah.
Demid,
yeah.
She starts pleading with him to give Demid back. And he laughs and says it can't be done.
Yeah,
like, not even Odium can do that.
Yeah.
He praises her for her perseverance in the war. And she just sort of steps back and she's watching all of the fused talking to each other.
Yeah.
And she sees this little ball of light that's like floating nearby.
Yeah.
And she like hides it from them.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave Venli.
Yeah. There isn't the ball of light.
I assume it's some kind of Spren.
Yeah.
I assume it's kind of like the Radiant Sprens. Like it's a more advanced Spren that can be bonded with.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see if she can bond with it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. That's where...
So we leave Venli.
Yeah, that's where we finish part 2.
Yeah. How did you enjoy part 2?
I didn't.
Oh. At all? Or like...
I think I found part 2 just a bit too slow for me.
That's fair.
I really enjoyed the flashbacks with Dalinar. I'm loving his flashbacks.
Yeah.
As I said last time, I really enjoy seeing just how different Dalinar was back then.
Yeah.
And, like, I love the Blackthorn.
The Blackthorn is fantastic, yeah.
Like, I love seeing just how ruthless he is.
Yeah.
Compared to, like...
Current Dalinar. He's like a big softy, you know. Not a big softy, but...
But, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so different. I did like using the storms to bring in the other leaders.
Yeah.
I loved meeting Odium.
Oh god, yeah, that meeting of Odium is incredible.
Yeah. I quite liked Jasnah being badass.
Yeah.
And telling Amaram where to go.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, for me, I really like Adolin.
Yeah.
And he's off doing his own thing with Renarin.
I remember you were...
Like, Renarin leaves for a bit, comes back. I don't know, I feel like something's going on with Renarin.
And you want to know more?
Yeah, well, we've never had a Renarin chapter.
Yeah.
Like, we've never had anything from Renarin's point of view.
Yeah.
And as this seems to be the Radiants working out what they are and how their powers work,
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a bit more Renarin.
Yeah.
Not only Renarin, but the one that came with Teravan.
Malata. I am agreement there. I would like to see more Malata.
Yeah, like we saw her burning a pretty pattern into a table and that's it.
And that's it, yeah.
So like it would be cool to... I was just expecting more Radiants learning their powers.
Yeah.
And I've not had that.
You just get a lot of... You get a lot of Bridge 4, but you know.
I love the Bridge 4 stuff.
Yeah.
But everything else is just sort of like the standard daily life.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Veil. I don't like Veil.
I'm not a big fan of Veil.
I find Veil just really boring. I don't know why Shallan is so obsessed with her.
Yeah.
Like, Shallan's way cooler.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, as I said, I just felt like I wanted more Radiance being Radiance.
Yeah.
And I didn't really
get as much as
get a lot.
That's fair.
So yeah.
Like I said, I think part 2 is intentionally a slower...
Yeah.
I don't want to say day in the life, because stuff does happen, but I feel like it's an intentionally slower, more of a chapter by chapter stories.
Yeah.
Especially like things like Rock's chapter is like one of the longest individual chapters I think in any of the Stormlight books. I think it's like 5. It's a long chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like all of them out there. They're like little stories.
Yeah.
So,
as I said, like I just want Renarin,
Yeah.
and I've not been given any Renarin.
Yeah.
Which is weird because obviously Shallan is exploring how
her
powers work. Kaladin is teaching Bridge 4 how Stormlight works.
Yeah.
Renarin. Where's Renarin?
Don't worry. I think you'll get more Renarin.
Yeah, but I already don't get him in part 3. I finished part 3 now.
Yes.
I know I haven't got any more Renarin in that one.
Yeah. Just straight up not even there in any of the like...
Well, he didn't go with them.
He didn't go with them, so he's just not there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want Renarin.
Don't
Please
worry.
give me Renarin.
You'll get some eventually, I promise you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just like when I promised you that you'd get Vin in Secret History.
Don't.
Oops. Bye, kitty. Right. Cool. Thank you guys for watching. Join us next time where we talk about part 3. And we're going to talk about Fun Siege.
Yeah.
And Dog's going to say bye. And leave a comment down below about who's your favourite Bridge 4 member and what did you think of their chapters. Cool. So thank you again for listening. Follow us on 17shard.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Look out for us in your local supermarket. Follow us on Patreon. Give us money because you get these videos a little bit early. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.